here comes in a word that is very important, a network. You need to know people, no matter how brilliant you are, or even in setting up your own business. You need to talk to someone who has some kind of experience of business that can help you. The fascination and the growth that I felt in meeting other people and trying to understand their differences, but at the same time to recognize their common humanity. And I never want to deny myself that opportunity. There is so much opportunity out there to learn, if you want to, about other cultures and be enriched thereby. I came here in 1958, September 1958. I had heard that if you have a year's fees, you could get a job, preferably on the railway, during the summer. That would help you with your fees. There wasn't any guarantee that you would make enough to support yourself for a whole year. You had a chance of completing your degree because subsequent summers you would get jobs, etc., etc. So that was the main incentive to me to come here, because the United States and Britain were out of the question as far as I was concerned, because it would have been too expensive, and we didn't hear about the possibility of getting a job with a certainty. There were two other things that drove me. The first, the program. The program I found, which was offered by the University of Toronto, seemed to be intensive, and also the registrar of the college to which I finally applied actually came to Barbados. He had worked in Guyana, and I think also he had worked at the University of the West Indies, and he knew that I had applied, and he was coming through Barbados, and he arranged to see me. And I thought that it was quite an honor that this man in this position took that interest in me, and I think that he was excited too, if I may use the word, because I was going to study his discipline. I had been admitted to do a degree in classics, and he was a professor of classics. So naturally, of course, he would be attracted by the prospect, I think, of having someone who was going to study his discipline. I had a concept of university which I suppose was idealistic and unreal, because I believe that at a university you had an opportunity to meet people from all backgrounds, and I felt that the college into which I was admitted would provide that opportunity for me. I didn't sort of realize that this was a Canadian college, and it would be drawing most of its students from Canada. I was shocked the first evening when we had a reception. I was the only black person. And also that I was the only person in the college who would be doing that discipline, which was, I suppose, a blessing in one way, because a lot of my courses were one-on-one. I came directly to a college, and in that sense I was privileged. I lived in the college all year, and I lived in the college during the summer. So I didn't have to go out there and look for a residence, and that is what most of the international students, be they from the Caribbean, be they from Africa, or be they from Europe, that's what they face. You would see a room advertised for rent, and when you would go, you were told the room was rented. And what you would do is you would take a white student, who may be your friend, to the same place, but you would keep out of sight, And the white student would go and ask to rent the room, and he or she would be welcome. We've had governments that have tried to go beyond the stereotype. I mean, the Bill of Rights, which Diefenbaker brought in, Pierre Elliott Trudeau's concept of multiculturalism, and the whole idea of the vertical mosaic. The whole idea that you can be Canadian and yet maintain aspects of your culture which are meaningful to you, that you are not forced to give up your cultural background in order to be Canadian. The Black Canadian Scholarship Fund was founded in 1996, and its objective is to provide scholarships for Black Canadian students who aim to attend university. And three criteria must be met. The first criterion is academic excellence. The second is community service. And the third is need. And need is the preponderant criterion. You have to demonstrate on your application and by the evidence, the information that you provide, that you are in need. We're in our 27th year, and we've given 73 scholarships. And what we do is we raise funds and we deposit the funds with the Ottawa Community Foundation. The foundation invests the funds, and from the dividends generated by the funds, we give scholarships. 2 of our students have become doctors. One's a pediatrician leading the program in the Faculty of Medicine at the University of British Columbia. Another one is a GP. But we have several lawyers. Some of them are Crown prosecutors. We have economists. We have people who have gone into commerce. We have people who have gone into mass communications. We have people who have done social work, global affairs, sociology, engineering, biomedical science. We have a student who, she's no longer a student, she is adjunct professor at Carleton and Ottawa U. She has a PhD in robotics. I was influenced by people who had privileges similar to mine. That is, people who had a university education, people who had obtained what may be considered good jobs, and people who had embraced the idea of giving back, and also the recognition that people of color had to work harder than people who belong to majority culture to achieve the level that people in the majority culture achieve as a thing of course. Even today, people of color are less informed and have less access to the information that will help them than others. There are people of color in this country who perhaps haven't gotten beyond a certain point because they don't know. Some don't care to know. Some are satisfied with what they have. But some don't know what's out there which they can use to become, if you may say, upwardly mobile. I mean, I got my first job because departments of classics throughout the country were connected. The chairperson of the Department of Classics in the University of Toronto would know the chairperson, not necessarily well, but would know the chairperson of the Department of Classics at York, or at Queen's, or at the University of Ottawa. And so what happened in my own case was that chair people were talking to each other, and the conversation would be, do you have anyone at the doctoral level in this program? We think that we are going to need someone in our program whom you would recommend. And that was done by a phone call. That's how I got interviews. In this country, the powers that be aren't necessarily interested in where you come from. You need to know people, no matter how brilliant you are, or even in setting up your own business. You need to talk to someone who has some kind of experience of business that can help you. I love the classroom, not only because of the preparation. I learn more, I think, than I teach. And there's something constantly refreshing about being in touch with the minds of people who are learning, and the opportunity to hear different points of view and to see the transformation that seems to occur when a student finally understands something, and how the student lights up. I enjoy the intellectual experience immensely.
So do you miss that now?
I know that I miss it when I go into a classroom. That's how I would answer that question.
And how often do you do that?
The last time I was in the classroom was a special pleasure. I'll never forget that. Adrian is now a professor at Carleton.
Yes, I was actually coming to that.
Yeah, and
he took completely after you.
he taught a course on the history of black journalism in the country. And I was a columnist for the newspaper Contrast for 9 years. And so he asked me to come in and talk about my experience. That was a special pleasure. Standing up in front of that group of students, I knew then that I missed the classroom. Count your blessings one by one. When dawn appears and day has just begun, they will light your heart with happiness. Make each hour bright and bring you gladness.